Hey guys, it's me, ELIJAH Stanton.
And me, ELIJAH Stanton.
And today we're going to be teaching you the history of
The movies!
Okay, the first thing we're going to learn about is what movies are. A movie is when you show people a story that are on film. On a screen, for example. You can film whatever story is on your papers, which are scripts, with a camera. You see, once you use a camera, you must edit the process of how movies should look like and what people do in the movies, in order for the whole thing to make sense. For example, it all started with the silent films. Silent films are what are very silent, that have no actual sounds during the filmmaking process. That's why people use sentence cards and add them to the entire movie in order to understand what they're saying. The person plays the piano to make it more dramatic or astounding and a bit more exciting. The silent movies have been going on for many generations until now. The sounds have been born after making many silent films such as The Phantom of the Opera, Nosferatu, The Man That Laughs, and more. Even the Charlie Chaplin films. People have moved on to add sounds to their movies using their microphones and recording the sounds of what they all sound like. Sound effects are what adds to it for movies in order to make the entire movies more sense. You see, the sounds are what made the audience more excited for more. Silent movies became the thing of the past. People didn't need to use the piano in order to make it more dramatic for silent movies. Now they can add movies and the music together. They can add music to the movies with sounds now. The sounds have been moving on and on. The movies were once in black and white, but now they're in color. Movies used to be in black and white, and now they're in color. So, the reason why it's all now in color is because Technicolor was born. Technicolor is what made the entire films more colorful than ever. Thanks to the success of it, ever since they've made the Snow White movie, the first film that came out in 1937. Movies that are in color have been going on for many decades. Some of the movies continued doing this in black and white, but some others, no. That's because of the cartoons that kept going on and on in color. In fact, people have made movies from black and white and the ones from color for many generations. They still used the sounds to make the future of movies. And how they pulled off the practical effects? Well, we'll get to that. Practical effects is when you try something more practical, like using some animatronic puppets, or using prosthetic makeup, or face paint makeup, or any other type of effects that you would think is a good idea. You can even use some costumes for that. Heck, you can use pyrotechnics to make it more believable, in order for it to make sense. And you can even wear a monster suit. That would be perfect. For example, there was a man in a rubber suit for the first Godzilla movie that came out in 1954 in Japan. It made very well successful moments. While we're on the subject, they've made tons of prosthetic makeup effects for Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, Claude Rains, Boris Karloff, and so many more legendary actors of the Universal monster films, such as Count Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Mummy, and even the Invisible Man. Now then, practical effects have been around for many generations, but that's not the only type of special effects there was to it. There was also visual effects. Visual effects is when there are some 3D animated characters or 3D animated background movements that have been around for the entire generations. It all started with stop motion animation. Stop motion is when you do a couple frames at a time after moving a miniature puppet of a creature or a person or even any other type of characters for the matter, like dinosaurs, giant monsters, little monsters, even humans themselves. Then, after stop motion animation, came the most important part of them all, computer-generated imagery, also known as CGI. It came from Industrial Light and Magic and PDI that made the DreamWorks films and the movies from the 90s. It all started with The Knight from Young Sherlock in 1985. Then came a bunch of other computer-generated characters like the living water from The Abyss. Then came T-1000 from the Terminator 2 movie, Judgment Day. Despite the 3D animation, also came the 2D animation first when they've made their own cartoons from the 20s into the future of today. From the early and the late and mid-90s, Industrial Light and Magic has been using CGI for many other movies, like Jurassic Park, The Mask, Casper, Dragonheart, and even the Star Wars movies. Now, the original saga of Star Wars only did the practical effects before it was changed to something more remastered. A New Hope was only called Star Wars once, in 1977, before it became A New Hope. And after the original trilogy with Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher, and even James Earl Jones himself. Then came the prequels. According to George Lucas, every saga has a beginning. In The Phantom Menace, we see the first appearances of CG aliens. The first alien we see as a CG character is Jar Jar Binks, the Gunkin himself, from Naboo, where the two characters, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi, meet Boz Nass. Sorry, that is a very funny noise to do. Look, the point is, visual effects have been around for many more decades. From the 90s to the early 2000s, and late to the 2010s, and to the 2020s. And there you have it, the history of the movies.